Hello, welcome to Phoenix and Flame. I'm Dana, otherwise known as the Queen of Boundaries, and I'm so glad you're here. You've landed in a space full of support. My website, danaskaggs.com, offers a free boundaries quiz, online courses, coaching support, and my funny blogs. I'm also available for speaking events. If you live in Tennessee and need a therapist, visit danaskaggs.therapy.com. Now, without further ado, let's get to our next awesome episode. Welcome, friends. Whether you're out on a walk, running errands, or relaxing at home, it's wonderful to connect with you. Joining us today is Kurt Bush. Now, Kurt is a certified internal family systems practitioner, trauma informed coach, and co founder of Brimstone Coaching Group. We're going to get back to that title here in just a minute.
Please, yes.
With a background spanning corporate leadership, pastoral ministry, and coaching, Kurt helps leaders break free from self doubt, embrace authenticity, and lead with confidence. Kurt, welcome to Phoenix and Flame.
Hey, thanks. Glad to be here. Nice to spend some time with you here, Dana.
This is going to be fun. Okay, now I have more to say about you, but first, I can't let it go.
Yeah.
Brimstone Coaching Group. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
wow, that's like when you think of brimstone, you think of like the hellfire and brimstone. It's like, where did you come up with that name?
Well, it's funny you say that, Dana. There is about 50% of the people we talk to that have the same exact reaction you had. And you said you're in Tennessee. I'm like, okay, this might be a thing. So here's the reality. You know this, that butterflies are the only living creature that transforms, that literally transforms in their lifetime. The brimstone butterfly is a species of butterfly, and it is the longest living species of butterfly. It lives the longest transformed life of all butterflies. So we believe transformation is possible. We wanted to capture that with some butterfly imagery. We are not marketing folks. Maybe did not think through uh, the 50% of the population that hears brimstone and thinks something a little more like hellfire, brimstone, pounding the pulpit sort of thing. But we are not pounding on any pulpits. No.
But and I love that explanation. When I think of brimstone too, in terms of a coaching group, I think that being finally scared enough of what's going on in your own
Mm,
life to do something about it.
mm,
Because to be honest, we kind of know that we're all walking around in varying levels of pain.
yeah.
And there's this, I'm sure you've heard of it, the pain threshold.
Yeah.
That if for those of you who are listening or watching and you don't know what the pain threshold is, it's like before any of us are willing to do the work of change. Now, listen closely. The pain of staying the same has to become worse than the pain of change,
Yeah.
which means we don't want to change because
Yeah.
we don't like it. And sometimes we have to be finally scared enough,
Mm,
in enough fear of our own life that we're finally willing to do the work of change. So when I think of Brimstone Coaching Group, that's also what comes to my mind.
mm. Yeah, that's interesting. Thanks for saying it like that. That's a more gracious understanding than we get sometimes. So thanks.
All right. Now, I want to add a few other things in here to help my listeners and viewers understand a little bit more about you and so much fun stuff to talk about. So, you said that you have overcome your own struggles with imposter syndrome, which we definitely
Mhm.
are going to hover over that for a moment. That you're passionate about guiding others through transformational growth into authentic leadership, and you have your own unique ERT approach, which we can get to in that. So, Kurt, let me pause and stop talking so much and give you some space to like where you can start wherever you like. If you want to start kind of where you started from in childhood or start current and work around. I'm really interested in you as a person
Mm.
and what brought you to this place in life where you're doing all these things. I mean, why this? Why now?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dana. I don't know. No, just kidding. Uh,
I love it. You got me.
yeah, news to me. Yeah, so I have a weird, unique background. Yeah, I mean, there's certainly some childhood stuff. I mean, I am a coach. I'm not a clinical therapist, so I do know like my lane. When I talk about trauma, I mean little t trauma. I've got some little t trauma from my childhood where there was some really deeply embarrassing or painful kind of moments as a kid that kind of shaped how I showed up as an adult leader, which I know we're speaking the same language there. Yeah,
Mm.
so my like leadership began in a manufacturing world where I was kind of swimming in waters I probably didn't belong in. And like I mean that not in a self-deprecating way, but I was fortunate enough to have some doors open up for me that were really good at a really good time in my life. I was just a kid leading a team of people in a manufacturing plant that I didn't know what I was doing, right? Like I was doing the thing that I hate. I was kind of faking it until I make it. I hate that now as a coach, but I didn't know what I was doing. I got to do some recruiting. I did labor recruiting for the entire plant for a season, and that was really great. I loved the place I worked. I loved the people I work with, and then I went to seminary as an adult, which is really dumb. No, it's not dumb. It was just a it's just a huge life change. I went to seminary in my 30s. There's another story for another time. I didn't have a bachelor's degree. The seminary I went to had some processes where they allowed students to come in, non-traditional students to come in and get their MDiv. So I did that late in life, and it was really in that season of seminary that I realized, like, man, there is some imposter stuff going on here. I'd never written a master's level paper. I'd never sat in rooms of people that I considered to be, you know, levels of, exponentially smarter than I am. I don't know if that's true. I still don't know how true that is, but that was the feeling. And that sort of imposter syndrome that started there carried with me into my first local church position. That was a pretty challenging season to just kind of uncover. I had a good coach before I knew how to do this work for myself and with others. I had a really good coach that helped me kind of navigate and uncover some things that I didn't know were present. Um, yeah, I mean, I think once that started to get uncovered in me, it just sort of happened. It's kind of cascaded of like I found this, and then I found this, and I found this, and again had a good coach to work with me through that in a kind of gentle and invitational way.
Mm.
Yes, so I was pastoring a church in 2020. Long story, real short. I don't know. Do you remember 2020?
Ah, yeah, right, I think I do, yeah,
Yeah,
I think we
there,
remember that.
there were a couple things going on.
Yeah, a couple things.
Yep, yep. So, we launched a campus of a church. I helped launch a campus on January 1st of 2020, which is wild in and of itself and difficult in and of itself. But then in March to have a pandemic hit, I had to shift into full, like, help my leaders lead well mode. I didn't know it, but I needed to coach my volunteer leaders so that they could lead well. And what I found in that is I loved that work way more than I loved organizational leadership. I'm just, if I'm honest, like I just don't like organizational leadership. I don't get energy from sort of being the organizational leader that casts a vision and like let's go in this direction. I don't love that sort of leadership. So then over the course of the next couple of years after that, it transitioned my career into, how do I do more of the work that I love and gives me energy and sort of transition away from the stuff that drains me more.
Wow, and that's really powerful right there, and we can wrap back around to that about being in a space in your life where you're trying to diminish and turn away from the things that just suck the energy out of you
Yeah.
so that you have energy left for the things that you really love. I feel that to my bones, okay? I know exactly, woo, what that is like, and if you don't pivot,
Yeah.
then well, I'm gonna say something sound kinda cheesy, but if you don't pivot, you're gonna perish.
Yeah.
And, pivot or perish because that's what that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Now I wanted to take a moment and hover over imposter syndrome. That's what
Yeah.
you mentioned, even starting as such a young man, and you were in the manufacturing industry and leading other people older than you.
Yeah.
Imposter syndrome is strong and it's very prevalent. It just eats people alive in various platforms and various arenas where they feel like, "I I can't do this.
Yeah.
Other people seem to think I can, but I don't think I can do this." And so we had said earlier, we mentioned the internal family systems, which I love. I use in my keynote, my mental boardroom aspect of, that part of us
Yeah.
that's in there saying, "You need to get out of here. You are not qualified. They're going to find you out, and
Yeah.
it's going to be embarrassing."
Yeah.
What was your let's just hover over that particular experience that you had, and what was that like for you so we can really connect with the people that are listening or watching that they're like, "Oh my gosh, that's I'm feeling that right now. I'm experiencing that right now."
Yeah. Yeah. In the moment, I couldn't I just wanna say in the moment, I didn't know any of this. In the moment, like, as a young adult learning these new roles I didn't know how to do, I thought this was just normal. Like, I thought this is what it meant to adult, if I can use that as a verb, right? I just thought this is just what this is the cost of leadership, right? That I'm gonna feel exhausted, that I'm going to walk into a room and, like, have to scan around to figure out who's smarter than me, or I'm gonna have to like fear every time my phone dings when I'm off, one of those sorts of things. I just thought that was normal. I know now that it's not, like that happens in our own experiences. We just imagine everybody feels the same way.
Mhm.
uh but it really was that. It was really walking into a room fearing like, oh, is this the meeting, like is this the one where my manager is like, oh, you're right, we made a bad choice, you got to go, right? Or, what happens if I don't know how to answer the question that I get a phone call about? Like what then? What's that going to mean for me, my family? I mean, it just builds and builds and builds. It feels like a house of cards is what it
Yes.
feels like in the moment. Just waiting
That's
for
a
a
very
strong
good
wind.
analogy.
Yeah. That's always stuck with me. It feels like a house of cards waiting for a strong wind. And how do I, you talk about IFS, like how does my firefighter and my manager like just block the wind? Like that's what it feels like. Uh that didn't like again, I didn't know this was abnormal in those years. It wasn't until seminary where like I'm submitting a master's level paper and I'm hovering over submit on my computer and I can't click submit. Right, like, it's this fear of, like, this is the paper, this is the one, and yeah, it's just it's exhausting. It's just exhausting.
Oh my goodness. I can relate to this so much. I have shared with people on my journey on doing because I'm a serial entrepreneur. So I've had
Yeah.
a private practice for 18 years, absolutely adore it. Then the podcast, and now I'm in the speaking
Mm,
arena and trying to build that and get my message out to help high performers not get burned out
yeah,
and love it. Have a lot of passion for that. But there's a lot of things like you mentioned earlier that go along the way.
yeah,
There's a lot of, things you have to learn and level up, and you get exposed to a lot of people, and to be honest, there's times that I've wanted, and a few times I literally did, crawl under my covers in a fetal position and just pull the covers right up to my chin,
yeah,
and I tucked them all
yeah,
around, and I just feel like, "Well, how long can I just stay here under
yeah,
my covers?" Because I think I don't know if I can do this. How long can, the whole house of cards waiting for that stiff wind and,
yeah,
it's a thing. I
yeah,
mean, what what helped you to manage that and to pull through it? And before you answer that, because I wanna just kind of float out, it's one thing if we're being beaten, if we're competing and we're being beaten, like imagine a team. It's one thing if the other team is beating us, right? Because they're better.
yeah,
That's one thing. It's
yeah,
another thing if we're beating ourself. If
yes,
we don't even need the other team to do it because we're beating our own self. Right?
yes,
And so that's how I view imposter syndrome. We're not waiting for the other team because to be honest, there are people out there that are smarter than us, better than us, more
yeah,
creative than us, faster than us. That's true.
yeah,
That will always be true, and if they are, they are, and kudos, and I wish the best for them, but it's one
yeah,
thing to be beaten legitimately by someone else or
yeah,
bettered by someone else. It's one thing when we beat ourself.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I you're spot on. I mean, I often think about the inner critic being so close in this conversation to imposter syndrome. Like, not
Mhm.
everything the inner critic says is to be set aside. Like, sometimes the inner critic is helping us, right? Sometimes the feeling of like, oh man, I might not exactly know what I'm doing. That can actually empower us, right? Like, there's not a complete good or complete bad in these conversations. Sometimes the imposter syndrome is like spurring us to get better, right? There are things we can learn. There are things we can improve on for sure. So I'm glad you said that. Here's what I found in my own personal imposter syndrome. What I think we see in our clients too is that that it's not really about the skills. It's not really about what I know or what I don't know. It's about the fear that I think is going to happen if it's not true. Like we talk a lot about little T trauma. I think that little T trauma comes back in all those places that remind us that this is a dangerous situation, and if I get found out, something bad is going to happen. Something dangerous or uncomfortable is going to happen. So for me, I needed a good coach that could help me ask the question, "What's true right now?" Right. So we can I tell a quick story?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I love stories. Do
Okay.
tell.
So when I started working for this for the last church I worked for, it was a big church, 2 campuses, lots of staff, and we also like the main campus is in a town with a small Christian college, and it was not uncommon to sit around a table with professors, and to talk about like, "What are we gonna do this week in terms of preaching or the text or whatever?" And I would find myself in that room, like, scared to talk, scared to share my opinion of what I thought because there's, like, professors across the table. So my imposter syndrome was for me was saying, "You don't belong here, and if you talk, they're gonna think you're dumb." Right?
Mhm.
Or they're gonna not invite you to this table, and I so badly wanted to be at the table. So I needed a good coach to ask me the question of, like, "Is that true?" Because so much of this imposter syndrome lives in the dark. So much of this lives in the realm of being unsaid and unnamed. So I needed a coach to ask me, what would happen if you spoke up? Or what would happen if you shared an opinion once in the next meeting? Not like full on, like, both feet in. Like, can you dip a toe in and try and see what would happen? So I need the question of what's true. Like in this moment, I need to ask Kurt the question, what's true? Are they going to withdraw from me? Are they going to think I'm dumb? Are they going to make me leave the room or never invite me back? And sure, sometimes the answer might be yes, but often the answer is no. Often the answer is definitely not. That was probably something that was that was real years ago for me, not anymore.
Pardon the interruption. It's time for our mid roll minute. You all have heard me talk about my speaker sisters and graduating from the Mic Drop Academy. Several of these wonderful women have been guests on Phoenix and Flame. Jess Ekstrom's mic drop boot camp and workshop were absolutely amazing. I learned so much in a short period of time and gained access to fabulous resources and an incredible support system of women. If you would like to feel more confident with speaking in front of others, whether it's a PTA meeting or a convention, use my links in the show notes and sign up. You will be so glad you did. That is a wonderful story. I love that. I mean, it's so I think we all can relate to being in scenarios very similar to that. And what I heard you saying in that description was you were essentially and your coach was helping you to essentially vet the men in that room. I assume they were men, or were there
Men and
women in
women.
there too?
Yeah,
Okay.
men and women, yeah.
To vet the people in that room for safety because we are supposed to do that. We have a responsibility to ourselves
Yeah,
to vet our environment.
yeah,
Is this a safe place to be authentic?
yeah,
Are these individuals going to accept my authenticity? Are they going to respect? Are they going to provide safe space for me to
yeah,
be authentic? Or are they going to be jackasses?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Um,
Good word.
Which, I mean, that's yeah, we've been there, right? And
Yeah,
we've been
yeah,
around those people, and we can kind of tell how they're speaking and how they're acting, their body language, their tone of voice, their facial
yeah,
expressions. We're thinking this person has jackass written all over them.
yeah,
So we absolutely have a right
Yeah.
to vet people.
Yeah. Yeah, the vetting mixed with courage, I think those 2 combined, I think for me, it was like the winning combination. I do think there is a level of courage that has to be employed when I don't know how to completely vet. Like I knew these people, had people other people could vouch. I know the person running the meeting, but at the end of the day, whenever humans are present, there's always a risk of danger, right?
Yeah.
So then what we use the language like, how do I take a half step outside of my comfort zone? Like, that's different all the time, and I get to decide what that looks like. But I wonder if that courage piece has to go along to, with the vetting of safety. So, once I know how safe or unsafe it is, now then I'm like I'm ridiculously in charge of how I show up in that space, right?
I love this. I love the courage piece. Something that I like to share with my clients is when they're presenting a scenario like you're presenting. Well, what if I go a half step out of my comfort zone and they insult me?
Yeah,
They sneer at me. They make some snide remark. They talk about me
yeah,
behind my back. And I'm like, well, any of those things could happen.
yeah,
I ask one question and,
yeah.
and,
It's a great question.
what if it does? Because, we're both sitting there looking at each other knowing that these things are very real possibilities.
Yeah, yeah,
We could go half a step out of our comfort zone, expose ourselves, expose our vulnerabilities, expose our weaknesses, and be chomped on,
yeah,
right? Somebody could chomp
yeah,
right down for their own reasons.
yeah,
And then my question is always, "Okay, what if that happens, and?"
and yeah,
And then they say, "Well, that's I wouldn't like that very much." I said, "I understand that, and?"
yeah,
And then they're like, "Well, they're gonna talk about being behind my back." They probably will, and
yeah. Yeah,
eh
Dana, you just like I think what you just said is such a wonderful way to bring back that question about the scales, the pain of not changing versus the pain of changing, right? I mean, I think how you describe that stirs that right back up in my mind of, like, yep, those are possible, and like, are we at a point where like I can't keep walking out of meetings not giving my opinion, right?
yeah, it's like, "Well,
Yeah,
what are your choices?" Your choices are just to curl in on yourself and never say anything,
yeah,
or take that risk and face those things and lean into it
yeah,
and become stronger for it.
yeah.
It's
That's great.
that's just, uh, I think what we're discussing is so pervasive. Um
Yeah,
Now, I've got a few questions here that I have a lot. I don't think we're going to get to all of them, but I definitely want to get to your ERT approach and make plenty of
yeah.
space for that. So go ahead and tell us all about your ERT approach.
Well, thanks, and cut me off if I ramble because I like this stuff
No,
a lot.
I will.
Okay, great. Great. So we would say, we believe transformation is possible, and we believe transformation is just a long, slow, difficult process in our lives. That I've been doing stuff for decades. It's gonna take a long time to undo the stuff that I'm doing, if I wanna transform. But we think if we can give the closest thing to a silver bullet or a magic wand that we can, we would say it is, the practice of reflection, especially around encounters. So those are the 2 pieces of our equation there. E is encounter, R is reflection. And here's how we define encounter. We think every day, every one of us has dozens of encounters, meaning we have experiences or interactions where we are thrown off our game. Either we're shocked or surprised, and then we react, or we lash out, or we withdraw in. Somebody cuts us off in traffic. Somebody puts their shopping cart ahead of ours in line. Like, we get an email that's unexpected and difficult. Those are encounters where we have the potential to react instead of respond. So then we would say when we have those, dozens a day potentially, when we have those, the invitation is to reflect on it, and ask some simple questions. What happened? Who was there? What emotions did I feel? What did I do? And most importantly, if I could do it again, would I do the same thing? And we believe that practice of being able to answer those questions, especially those last ones, allow most of us adults to see what is so, and once we see it, we can't unsee it.
Mm.
We can choose not to do something about it, but we don't get to unsee it. And we think most adults, our sort of optimistic view is most adult leaders want to change it if they don't prefer it. And that then is the transformation that we have an encounter. We get to see how we showed up in it. Once we see it, now we get to choose what to do with it, which leads to transformation.
That is fabulous. I love that. I love the whole reflection thing. There's so much power in that. So as you're talking, I'm thinking of all the different conversations I've had with so many people over the years, and I'm wondering what your thoughts are on how this applies to a narcissist.
Mm,
Because I've had encounters, with narcissists, and also I've talked to people who were struggling in relationships with a narcissist,
yeah,
and a narcissist's ability to reflect seems interesting.
yeah,
And so I
yeah,
was wondering what your thoughts are if someone is listening that maybe they're like, somebody has accused me of having narcissistic tendencies. Maybe I need to lean into this. Or if somebody's listening and they're like, my husband or my wife or my best friend or whoever is a flaming narcissist.
yeah,
What should I expect, in terms of that reflection uh
yeah.
in someone who has narcissism?
Yeah, that's it's a great question, Dana, and I'll answer only if you promise you'll answer too.
Okay.
uh, so I am probably not wholly qualified to talk about narcissism, but I think if we imagine the audience of our E plus R equals C, it's probably not a narcissist. We imagine that narcissists in general have a hard time um, thinking beyond what's sort of a self-serving posture. I also think, Dana, that most leaders have a certain level of narcissism. I think it's a spectrum rather than a yes
It
no.
is. It is absolute spectrum.
Yeah, so I always want to be a little careful, but I think the like most hardcore narcissists are probably not ever going to find reflection or practice worth engaging in, uh, let alone a practice that provides insight. And that's my cynicism coming out there. But I don't like how would you answer? I certainly yeah, I mean, we probably have an optimistic view to say, most people aren't at that level of narcissism, that it's not helpful, but I think there probably is a level of narcissism that reflection is just not a tool that's gonna do much.
Yeah, I love the whole spectrum because that's 100% true. Like
Yeah,
virtually everything in life, there's a spectrum.
yeah,
And we all, people who've accomplished a lot in their life, if they, you know, graduate degrees, in politics, these
yeah,
types of things, there's
yeah,
some narcissism involved there. So it absolutely is a spectrum. It doesn't mean it's
yeah,
dysfunctional, but it
yeah,
can reach a point where it is dysfunctional. And
yeah,
well, and really, as you're talking, I was thinking of the people that I've talked to who have been trying to navigate a relationship with someone who is a narcissist and they don't have that reflection
yeah,
ability.
yeah.
That's where I would come in with boundaries.
Mm,
Because I would
I
come
love
in and
that.
say, "Okay, well,
Yeah,
you're in an encounter with someone who is dysfunctionally narcissistic,
yeah,
and they're not respecting you. They might be behaving in a
yeah,
way that is somewhat abusive, whether verbally, emotionally, whatever." Then with a boundary, then we have a right and
yeah,
responsibility to keep ourselves safe. And so there's
yeah,
all different kinds of ways of setting that boundary with someone. When we recognize, despite everything that we say,
yeah,
they're not going to engage in that reflection.
yeah,
They're not going to see it.
yeah,
And so it's kind of like, okay, then we can set that boundary and let them not see it.
yeah,
Okay, I like to use a
yeah,
yard analogy. They're in their yard, we're in our yard. They're not going to see it. Okay, that's in
yeah,
their yard.
yeah,
And just
yeah,
set a boundary and move forward, and stop expecting blood to come out of a stone.
yeah,
It's not going to
yeah.
happen.
I think you're spot on. I mean, we listen, I mean, I think there's a lot of coaches that will help, people try to think about, like, "How do I change someone I'm in a relationship with?" Or, "How do," and we just don't think that's possible.
Mm.
So we think for sure, I mean, I love what you said, like, this is an encounter with someone who's a narcissist. That that is going to be true. So then I think our question would be, how do we wanna show up knowing that that's true? Like, let's pretend that's just gonna be true. So then I still have control of how I show up in that space, whatever that needs to look like or whatever boundary that needs to be. I think that's a great point, Dana.
Yeah. So let's see here. Now, here's a good question. How do you help leaders get unstuck?
It's a good question.
Because how many times do I'm just stuck. I'm stuck in
Yeah.
this space. I can't get unstuck. What is it that you share with them if there's someone listening or someone watching and they're in a leadership role, but they're just my first question is to you, what have they shared with you? Where are they stuck? What are they stuck in?
Yeah.
Is it some internal they're stuck or they're stuck in terms of how they're interacting with the people they're supposed to be leading? Where are they stuck, and how is it that you help them become unstuck?
Yeah, stuck is such a weird word, isn't it? Yeah, so we see a couple common themes. I think one theme we see is this sort of inner critic or imposter syndrome, where there's just a stuckness of like, "Man, I don't know how to take a step away from this or take a step out of this." That's one common area. The other common area is I'm not getting the results that I want, whether in my career or with the people that I lead, and I just don't know what else to try. Um, those are pretty common. Most is like, I'm not getting the career results I want, or I'm not getting the opportunities that I want. Um, our approach to this, Dana, is that the solution to the stuckness or the getting unstuck is already in our clients. Our posture is that it's our job to ask the right question at the right time to uncover the solution. Um, we, every coach is a little different, but we don't necessarily believe that it's our job to prescribe a bunch of directions. We want to prescribe some practices and some rhythms to help get to those solutions. But we think that if we can ask the right question as an outsider looking in, as someone not emotionally tied to a situation, if we can ask the right question, we think that will help uncover the solution that's already inside of our clients.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of what I heard in grad school. Socratic questioning, and also I think it was Carl Rogers that was really all about providing unconditional positive regard. That if you gave your client unconditional positive regard, then the truth that was already in them will have safe space to
Yeah.
kind of come forth and emerge.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can get at that through the questions. So
Yeah.
that's wonderful. So for the people that want to access you, that want to know more about you, Kurt, that want to really find out, more what's going on, the website that I have is brimstonecoachinggroup.com. Is that where you want them to go?
Heck yeah, that's right. That's right. Yep, on the website, there's lots of ways to find out who we are, why we do what we do. I do have a partner. I have a coaching partner. He's one of my best friends. We get to do this together, and there's all sorts of ways to connect with us free of charge to see if our sort of approach might be good to help a listener get unstuck. If I may, we have something we're really excited about. It's called
Sure.
Attending. It's a 10-day online course. It's completely free. It's an invitation to take 10 days and to be present to what's stirring on the inside of us. No calls to action, no fixing, just a 10-day experience where we might begin to attend to what's going on inside of us. That's free on the website in our courses section. And we just want people to have it and have some space to create some intentional space to understand what's going on inside of them right now.
That's fabulous. Thank you for that. That's wonderful. Kurt, this has been really enjoyable. I am so thankful for you and you being willing to come on Phoenix and Flame and give us your expertise and your wisdom and your vulnerability and your stories with myself, with my listeners, with the viewers. Thank you, Kurt, very, very much.
Yeah, thanks, Dane. It's been great. Thanks for having me.
Listeners, viewers, I know that you have heard multiple things today from Kurt that you're thinking, this is fabulous. I have a best friend. I have a coworker. I have a family member that needs to hear this. Take this podcast episode, copy and paste the link. You can share it through text, you can share it through email, post it on your favorite social media sites so that we can grow our Phoenix and Flame community and let people know you are not alone. I hope your day has been great. I hope the rest of your day is fantastic. I'm Dana on Phoenix and Flame.